challenge is issued on Takami, and he doesn't stand a chance.
Steve is a really likable guy. He has always good mood.
Saphir and Steve duking it out. Steve will find the kill.
About Spreadle, he's really likable as well.
I've looked at him.
And I think in a few years he's gonna be one of the top supports.
Oh, he's an engage. Ilias goes in, looks for Kami.
Ilias, he's kind of the captain, I would say, from the team.
Go! Let's go!
Nice, boys.
Get him! Yes!
Tipping behind.
Ikas, I would say he's a bit shy.
Dig in the name of Demacia.
If you actually upset him or something really bothers him, but he can get really loud as well.
Nice!
Rallis, he's been around for a long time actually. He knows how to play the map, and I think that's one of his
A
strengths.
quadra kill for Rollins.
We were kind of leftovers, but we're still good players, so it feels really great to just prove the whole community wrong.
Hello and welcome to the European League Championship Series. We're coming to you live from our studio in Berlin, Germany, where the stakes are high as teams start to pull ahead in the spring split. You are getting a look at our studio where the fans are ready to go. And there are some fans for a certain someone, the local hero, Steve, with his people on their origin. They had an AMA for the crowd here in the studio before their games today, and of course meeting the fans, taking some pictures, shaking some hands, and there the empty championship plaque that all the teams are fighting for, but we're not there yet. Hello everybody, I'm Eve, your Shock supporter, joined on the analyst desk by James Stress O'Leary and Mitch Kreppel-Voorspoels as we kick off week 3 of the 2016 season. We are ready to go here, and with 20 games on the book so far this spring, 5 teams are tied at the top of the standings at 3-1. In terms of the expected teams at the top of the table, H2K, Vitality, yes. Gamers too, G2 Esports rather, and Elements, big surprises.
Yeah, big surprises coming out there. You know, as you said, 5 teams there, alphabetically sorted, but Elements will be at the top of the table. They've been doing a good job so far. I'm excited to see where they can go from here as we continue with the games in the spring split.
I love that they're winning games and that they're really excited and how they're like proving everybody wrong, but hang on guys, hold your horses. They've played against some of the weaker teams so far and they have a very rough schedule coming up, so let's revisit that statement maybe 3 or 4 weeks from now, but still a surprise to see them at 3-1. Honestly, would have expected them lower, but I wouldn't get too excited just yet.
Good advice there from Krepo. A win is a win in the end, and some teams are still left looking for some more wins at the bottom of the tables. Giants and Origin at 1-3. That is very unexpected for most of us.
And the most unexpected thing was Origin. We gave them the benefit of the doubt in week 1. And week 2, we didn't really see the massive improvement we were expecting from Origin overall. They still need to pick things up. Communication issues was the big problem for week 2, and if they can fix those, maybe we can see them getting back. But now we're starting to eye up kind of that 3rd, 4th, and lower in the table for Origin as we go through the weeks.
Yeah, especially coming into the season, we were like, yeah, Origin #1 team. Why? Because they have a good existing framework, and they have a really strong player in Power Evil. Well, it's both falling apart. Power Reveal is making individual mistakes, not flashing when he gets kicked, for example, and the team itself is making big communication errors.
We'll see what happens if they can fix those. And heading into week 3, it is important to note that due to a bug we saw last week as Vitality faced Origin, Kindred has been disabled.
So yeah, here we see the bug, all the damage instances coming together in a very small time frame. Suddenly Shook disappears. But Shook from Vitality had the following to say after the game. He said, "I did not know it was a bug at the time. I died. I didn't even consider pausing. Just thought I screwed up. But I am Shook, and I rarely screw up."
I think there was a bit of censorship going on in that tweet, but a nice statement from him overall.
Yeah, but what it leaves us with is Kindred being disabled for the weeks of play on 6.1 at least. Kindred had an 80% pick ban rate. Only 4 games was not seen in any kind of instance, whether it was jungle, AD, or banned. So now, much like when Gragas was banned at Worlds, teams have had to adapt to that. Jungle Pool just got 1 champion smaller.
Will definitely have his influence on the games today, and unfortunately, due to visa issues, Diamond, Edward, and Ryu will not be playing this week and will be replaced by substitutes. We're working with the teams, but it's uncertain at this point when these players will be able to return to the league. Just to go over all of them, the Unicorns of Love, Diamond is out, and Millennium's Joko is stepping in. For Roccat, Edward is out, and Extinct is stepping in. And then the former Super Hot Crew and MYM mid laner Selfie will be subbing in for Ryu for H2K.
That's not the only change with lineups. Those three were all to do with visas, but there has been one change that's been determined by the team of Giants, and that is that their jungler Ku is out. They announced yesterday that Betong Yoke, the former substitute for H2K's jungle position, has come into their lineup, and we'll get to see him start today.
Exactly, because Giants is playing in the very first game of the day and also be looking for their very first win against Splice. Then later on, the Unicorns of Love will face Elements, and it's followed by H2K versus Vitality.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, H2K versus Vitality, right? A lot of people were looking forward to this matchup. Obviously, the departure or lack of Rio will influence this matchup, but I still think there's a lot of good things to watch out for, though. If you look in the top lanes, you have Cabochard and Odoamne facing off. Two of the top three top laners, in my opinion, in Europe here. The bot lanes, you have Van Forgiven versus Kasing and Kjarn. That alone is enough explosion. We'll need to see how much Rio's departure has influenced the macro game of H2K, but Vitality by no means thinks this is an easy grab because a couple of the members already went on Twitter and says, yeah, maybe they're weaker, but we still have a whole big task ahead of us. Should just be an exciting match overall.
Super exciting matchup, I agree. And as this season trends continue to develop, we want to get your take. Tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag EULCS and tell us what element of macro strategy do you think is most important in 2016 so far and why. And we'll check in with your answers later today.
Yeah, for me personally, aside obviously from how you do Crux properly, I will look a lot at vision. I really think it's exciting that we now have a lot more limited vision and choice is being rewarded. Whereas in the past, certain vision meta games, you just had, well, I have 10 wards. If I place 8 of them accidentally correctly, the other 2 don't really matter. Right now, it's really important. Vision denial, the amount of pink wards being bought by some of the teams, we'll get into that later in the show, but there are supports like Kasing who buy like 14 pink wards, and then you have supports like Miffy all the way at the bottom with significantly less amount of gold spent on those pink wards, and you can see the influence of that vision.
We'll see today as well. And now for a look at some of the pre-game decision-making in 2016, we're going to check in with Richard Pulse Cam.
Thank you, Shucks. We wanted to focus in on the champions, masteries, and runes the AD carries are running, why they're running, and also how you can use them at home too. First of all, we're going to take a look at the AD carries that are currently being picked right now, as well as their pick rate. So at the very top, Corki looking very strong. Just underneath is Lucian, who did fall off in week 2, while Kalista surged in the same week and is currently 9-1 in the EU LCS, only 1 loss so far. But before we carry on, we need to split the AD carries into 2 groups. One with spellcasters who deal the magic damage, and the other group, which will be the auto-attack focused AD carries who use the auto-attacks to deal damage. First off, we're going to look at Thunderlords. So, quick reminder, Thunderlords, 3 auto-attacks or spells activates that extra damage. Now, in the tree, we're going to take a look at some of the decisions that you can go for as you go down to that mastery. First up, Feast versus Double-Edged Sword. If you're a scrub like me, you probably went for Double-Edged Sword for the extra damage, but if you take a look at Feast, pretty much all of the pros go for this one, 100%, and it gives you that more sustain and lane. Then further down, you take a look at Oppressor versus Bounty Hunter. More people actually opting towards Oppressor because it's more easy to access the damage from your support CCing them rather than killing everyone on the map. Then you take a look also in Cunning, where you have the Biscuits versus Assassin, because while you may feel like you're 1 versus 3 in lane, in solo queue, you're actually not, so you don't benefit from that mastery. We now want to move on to Fervor, which, as again, a quick recap, auto-attacks and spells build up this one, and with those stacks, you deal more damage on hit. Specifically, Lucian benefits a lot from this, since his passive also applies on hit effects and has those spells to build up those stacks. Pretty much everything is the same when you take a look at the decisions you make, but the main difference is Emperor, who actually goes for 12 in Resolve. And while the sustain is very similar from what you get in all of these masteries, the main difference is Insight, which is the 15% CDR on summoner spells, which in real time is 45 seconds off flash and 36 seconds off heal. So it just messes with your opponent when they're trying to figure out your summoner spell timings. Finally, we're going to move on to the rune page, which is pretty similar when you look up and down it, with the attack speed quints, flat AD reds, flat armor yellows, and then 5 flat MR blues with 4 flat attack speed blues. So most AD carries are going for this one. The only outlier, or one of the only outliers, is Forgiven, who goes 9 attack speed blues and no MR. And this does not work unless you're Forgiven. I've tried it. I did it in solo queue. I just died a lot to their support because you have no MR. And I just wouldn't recommend it. But if you're Forgiven, it's fine because you don't die. Emperor, however, does go for mana regen in his glyphs, which doesn't really make sense. He specifically does it on Kalista, and it gives you an extra pierce every 3 minutes or so. So again, not super impactful. It could be mind games because he does the same thing with his masteries. We just don't know. You may be asking, Why go attack speed over flat AD? Well, specifically because if you both go for an auto attack trade at the same time and then you land your first auto attack, you can land a second one before your opponent does, back off, and you've won the trade. So that's why you run attack speed over AD. In summary, caster carries go for Thunderlords, and auto-attack carries go for Fervor of Battle. And whatever you do, take those attack speed quintessences. So, as we go and look at our first match of the day, Godfred tells us what he thinks about the Giants' start to the season.
I feel like we do some great things in the game, and we do some really bad things. Like, we're not respecting when we're supposed to back. We're overextending sometimes, getting caught out of place. It's easy to know what you did wrong in laning phase. And there are so many more options after laning phase that you can do, you know. The map is open, you have many possibilities, but we don't use these good options as we get punished by the bad ones, you know.